everybody, welcome to Stamping with Melva. I'm Melva Peters and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in British Columbia, Canada. And you can find me online at stampingwithmelva.com. It's Tuesday and I always jump on Tuesdays with a sketch challenge for you. So I'm going to play today with the Gorgeously Made bundle, as well as the, I think it's called Masterfully Made Designer Series paper. It's from a suite in the annual catalog, and it is just so pretty. This was one that for some reason I had ordered the stamp set and not the dies with it. Don't know why. I had the designer series paper, so it was a bit odd. And I made a card recently where I just fussy cut all of the die cuts out because I didn't have the dies, but I have those now, so I'm going to use them. It's kind of a fun sketch. I've seen some around. It's a bit like the floating card. If you've seen the floating card, I think I've done one even in the past, and I'll try and explain it. But it's kind of a fun sketch. I think you can do a lot with it. So let me switch over to my desktop and we'll get started. All right, so this is my sketch. Now it's going to go live on social media in about half an hour's time. So if you're on Facebook, my Facebook page, group, or Instagram, hey Betty, you will be able to get the sketch if you miss it. If you're not on Instagram or my Facebook page or group, just message me, leave me a comment on YouTube, and I will send you this sketch, or email me because the links are, you should be able to find my links for email. Email me and I'll send you the sketch. But the best place is to get it on either Facebook or Instagram. Okay, or watch the video again because I always go over the measurements. So for this one, you need a card base of 5.5 by 8.5 or 4 1/4 by 11, and then a piece that is 3 3/4 by 5, and I think I managed to cut that to my normal. Normally I do it 4 by 5 1/4, so I'm going to trim mine down. So 3 3/4 by 5. I've set a 2 3/8 inch circle. You could do it better. Hey Pam. Better, bigger, smaller, but you need a fair size circle. So even like the largest circle from the Stylish Shapes dies would work really well here. And then a sentiment. Now I'm going to use some, of course, some die cut shapes on it as well. I've said your sentiment layer is 3/4 of an inch by 2.5, but whatever fits your sentiment will work. Okay, let's get started. So this is the Gorgeously Made. Let me just take this out. I always try and take the cover off because I get quite a glare from my light. So this is the Gorgeously Made bundle. Love these stems. This is my favorite. I love anything. Hey, Felicia. Any stamp set or die that gives you kind of this distressed words, which is this perfect. You can't even hardly read these words. In fact, I don't even know that you can read any of these words. Some nice sentiments. I'm going to use the thank you. And then the die cuts. Actually, there are no die cuts that cut these out, but you have die cuts that cut other pieces out. This whole suite is a bit like mixed media. This is a really cool one. It's like the jagged edge of the notebooks, coil notebooks that I used to use in school. All right, that's the bundle. Now, let's bring in my supplies. I'm going to use Azure Afternoon cardstock. So I've got a piece cut. Just want to make sure. I'm using 4 1/4 by 11, and I'm going to score it at 5.5. I'll leave that out because I'm going to have to cut my next piece. So as always, we are going to score and then fold into the mountain or the raised line. Give it a great burnish with your bone folder. Okay, so my next piece should be 3 3/4 by 5. So I'm going to trim this down. I've already gone ahead and embossed it using the exposed brick. My piece needs to be trimmed by 1/4 of an inch. It doesn't really matter if you've got this. I could use this, but I just wanted more of the card base showing on it. Now I'm going to have to cut that a little bit, so I want this to be 5 inches. That's better. Snips. Just cut these little jagged edges off. Okay, so this is going to go on, and I just kind of, it just is nice actually every once in a while to see a little bit more of your card base, especially this pretty Azure Afternoon, or Azure. I don't know how, I say Azure. but I know there's different ways to say it. It's like mauve and mauve, and I left my lid off of my glue again. Melva. Yeah, I don't know what I do. Let's see if we can. There we go. This one's. Don't leave your lid off of your glue, otherwise you get clogs in it. All right, so there we go. There's the embossed piece on my card base. Okay, now I've got a piece of basic white. So I'm going to punch out, this is using the 2 3/8 inch circle punch. So when I said this is similar to the floating circle or floating card, on that one you cut a shape, it doesn't have to be a circle, out of a window sheet, and then you glue strips of designer series paper or cardstock. So I've gone ahead now, because I've only got a 2 3/8 inch circle, I've cut my strips to be 1/4 of an inch. You could cut them to be 1/2 inch wide if you wanted to, but because my circle isn't very wide or very big, I decided to kind of keep them kind of small. Now, when on the floating shape card, typically you leave a little bit of a gap on it. So I'm just going to randomly, I just went and cut some of the really pretty designer series paper from the Masterfully Made. Now I'm going to leave just a peekaboo of white showing. And I'm just going to randomly kind of do. I'm using my silicone mat because I'm using my Stampin' Seal, and I'm getting the Stampin' Seal is kind of going over the edge because the Stampin' Seal is wider than my 1/4 inch strips. So I'm just trying to kind of switch up the colors here. I'm going to go all the way to the top, and then we'll trim around our circle. It's kind of just a fun technique. We all have so many kind of scraps of designer series paper. Or if you don't, I'd like to know how you're using them, because I sure do. I don't know. There we go. There's the last one for that. I'm just going to turn it around. Now I cut 10 pieces because I kind of roughly estimated that 10 pieces would cover my card. 10 times 1/4 is 2.5, and my circle is 2 3/8. So there we go. All right, and it did. Okay, I've got one left over. Perfect. Okay, so now we're going to take this and just gently lift this up. And we're going to now just take and cut around this using your paper snips. Now I suppose you could re-punch this out if you wanted to, but glue adhesive on the back of these, so these pieces are sticking to my scissors. There we go. All right. There we go. Get my bits. Okay, so now I've got more bits. There we go. Now I've got a circle that's got all little stripes of color. And we're going to take and put that just down here in the bottom of it. Now I'm going to use some dimensionals on it. Just going to keep it somewhat simple, although I have some die cuts that I've cut out to go on. I think it would be kind of a fun card even just with this and a sentiment on it, but oopsie. Let's try and get those going straight. There we go. All right, now I went ahead and I cut out, there it is. So I cut out 2 of these. This is one of the die cuts that is in the bundle. So I went ahead and cut out. Now this is the More Dazzle. Now it's funny. This More Dazzle paper we had. Hello, Judy. We had in a celebration, so it was in this color. Now I didn't realize that it comes in 2 shades of gold. So if you can see that, this is kind of a this is definitely a bright gold, and this is a little bit more subdued gold. I cut it out of this one because I didn't realize we had 2 different ones, but that's kind of cool. So I cut one of these stems, and I'm going to poke out the bits just because I think it'll look kind of cool. There we go. I've got everything. Now I'm going to cut that down a little bit. And then I also cut one out of vellum. I will say this dazzling More Dazzle Designer Series paper, if you're giving a card to someone or taking a card to a party where they have a no glitter rule, you may want to reconsider that, because if you can see my card, I've got glitter on it. And so I know there are some places that are very particular about glitter. So they wouldn't be happy with me with this card if somebody opened it in one of those places. So I'm just going to take a glue dot. I've cut kind of the bulk of the stem off, and I'm just going to use a glue dot to hold these on. Just thought there we go, like that would look pretty. You can hardly see there we go. You can just kind of see the vellum. Yes, there's definitely glitter falling off of this. Okay, so let's see. Where it is. I thought I had an inside for the card. I'm going to grab a piece of basic white for just a sec. All right. I think I used my basic white for the inside of the card to punch this out. Not thinking right. Okay, so let's use this one for the sentiment. And I think I'm going to use Berry Burst on the sentiment. It's just feeling like it needs maybe a little bit more color. And so I've got the thank you sentiment. There we go. So I'm just going to take and stamp that there. And I will fussy cut this out. I'm not gonna, it's an easy fussy cut if you don't like to fussy cut. So mine's going to be a little thinner than the 3/4 of an inch, but the size of your sentiment always depends on how big your sentiment is. So I'm just going to use some, I've got some ends here. So I'm going to use a dimensional on one end and a little bit of glue on the other end. It's stuck to my finger. And we'll just put it like that. There we go. All right, now I pulled out a couple of different embellishments. I've got, you can't see them very well, it's darn plastic. So these are the opaque ovals, which are in Azure Afternoon. And then these are this is the 3-pack, the Tinsel Gems 3-pack. And I thought those would go pretty. Actually, I think those ones actually, even though that's not Azure Afternoon, I think on the white it will look close enough. My mother always used to say, close enough. All right. Pretty card. I'm really liking this card. Okay, so now let's take a piece of basic white. And for the inside of the card, we'll make it 4 inches by 5 1/4. Now, I cut a piece of, this is the Designer Series paper, but I am in love with this stamp that is all kind of distressed like the exposed brick embossing folder. So I think I'm just going to take that and stamp that down in the bottom corner. Could have been a little straighter, but hey, all good. Put the lid back on my glue so it doesn't all glom up. Hey Peg, welcome. Glad you made it. All right, and so this can go on the inside of the card. Yeah, definitely could have got that a little straighter. Oh, all right, so there we go. I think that's a really pretty card. I'm definitely going to make some more of these because how fun is that? And a great way to use up some Designer Series paper in such an easy way to glue it onto to just a circle. You could use another shape, but what's easier than punching out a circle using either a 2-inch or a 2 3/8 inch circle punch. All right, yeah, Peg, watch the replay. If you have questions, let me know. All right, everybody, thanks so much for joining me. I'm glad people are starting to get used to my new time. So again, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I come on at 2 o'clock Pacific with a sketch challenge on Tuesdays, a technique on Wednesdays, and a mystery on Thursdays. So I hope you'll be able to join me through the week. All right, everybody, hope you have a great day and happy stamping. Bye, everybody.